What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Jacob Wall Fishing. Sitting here in the fishing cave or the fishing room, whatever you want to call it today. Just wanted to give you guys a breakdown and a run through of my Smith Lake MLF Pro Circuit event. We just wrapped that up like a week ago, and I was sitting around and I had all my stuff under the cover in the boat, and it's been pouring down raining. We've gotten some crazy storms that came through, so I didn't have a chance to pull any of the stuff out. My SD cards were in the boat, and I just kind of wanted to leave it all wrapped up. I didn't want to have to get into anything during all that nasty weather. So we had a little break in the weather today, and I was able to pull some gear out, get my SD cards out, and I wanted to break down the tournament for you guys, show you some fish catches, show you sort of what I was using, and give you guys just a quick rundown of what I did on Smith Lake for the second stop of the Pro Circuit event. So stay tuned, guys. Hopefully you enjoy this video and you learn something, and maybe you can apply it the next time that you go out fishing. So I had a pretty simple approach for Smith Lake. I really didn't have a lot of equipment. I kept it real simple. I used 2 rods pretty much the entire tournament, with the occasional rod mixed in, you know, picking this thing up, picking that thing up. But really what did the bulk of my damage this week was a small swim bait. Oh, and by the way, I was targeting spotted bass. You could target both largemouth and spotted bass. I went the route of spotted bass. That's just where I felt comfortable. I feel like there's more of that 3 to 5 pound class in the spotted bass range than there were the largemouth. With that being said, obviously John Cox won on largemouth. I mean, there's a lot of big largemouth in there too, but I just decided to go the route of spotted bass. So spotted bass, what they were doing was they were suspending, and they were chasing these blueback herring around, which are anywhere from like about 3 to 6 inches long, and they school up. And I was utilizing my Lowrance active target, and I was actually pulling up to points, or I was pulling up to like rocky kind of, you know, not bluff walls, but like rocky areas that slowly kind of dropped off into deep water. And I would scan that active target around, and I would look for individual marks of fish, or I would actually look for the bait with the fish under it. But essentially I was using my active target to locate the fish. The first day I really targeted fish on points. I was targeting these flat tapering points that went out. I spent a lot of my practice the 2 days looking for these points, finding, you know, pulling up on them and rolling up and scanning with my active target and going, hey, there's fish sitting on this part of this point. And, you know, I got a few of those fish to bite. Primarily in practice, I was getting them to bite a jerkbait. You know, throwing the Erie 115, the Nishine jerkbait, and like I believe this is BPB shad, or this might be BPB smelt. I don't know. It's a different color for the jerkbait. I think this is the BPB smelt, but that's a good color. Caught them on that in practice, and you know, basically looking for those flat tapering points with those spotted bass out on the ends or up on top. What I noticed was that these fish were really, really shallow. They were up on top of these points in like 5 to 15 feet of water, right up on top of the points, and it was hard to get them to bite. They would follow your bait all the way to the boat, you know, whether it be that jerk bait or your small swim bait. You know, this guy here was the small swim bait that I threw a lot. This is a Keitech 3.3 inch, and that's on a 2/7 ounce Smelthead, Nishine Smelthead. And I was getting them to follow this stuff, but you know, occasionally I'd get one to bite. But everything else was so difficult, I really had a hard time getting bit anywhere else. So that was kind of my game plan. Marked a lot of flat points, and my plan was basically first day of the tournament to go out there and just run points. And I had a decent day. I had just under 11 pounds, nothing crazy. I just didn't get a big bite. And in practice, I just didn't get a big bite either. You know, I could get those 2 to 2.5 pound bites, but anything bigger than that was really hard to come by. And so I was starting to think like, man, maybe these big ones, they're there, but maybe they're just so pressured, they're not biting. So where can I catch these bigger quality fish? So the second day of the tournament, I go out and I had the same game plan. Hey, I'm going to hit points. I'm going to do the same thing. If I can duplicate that almost 11-pound bag, I'll most likely make it to the top 50 and I'll make a check. So that was just kind of what I was going to run with. Well, I hit a couple points. I caught one that was just undersized. You know, they had to be 15 inches, and I caught one that was just under 15 inches. And I was kind of running around, and ended up catching one keeper that was like 2.5 pounds on a point. And it was like 9:30, and I was like, man, this is not happening. And so I started looking around, and I saw some big bouldery rocks, and I was like, gosh, that just looks good over there. I'm gonna go over there and fish that, and just throw a little, you know, the little Keitech on that jig head just down the side of that stuff, and just see what happens. And I pulled up, and within like 10 minutes, I caught a 15 1/4 incher, and I was like, wow, that was really quick. So I pulled around the corner, and I started running that rocky stuff. And I scanned out, and I saw like 4 fish, and I picked up the jerkbait, and I fired out across them, and I caught like a 2.5 pounder. And I scanned it again with the active target, and I saw him, I lined it up, fired it back out there, and caught another like 2 pounder. So within like 30 minutes, I made an adjustment that put 3 keeper fish in the boat. So I think around 10 o'clock, I had 3 or 4 keepers in the boat, including that one I had caught prior on the point. So I was like, man, this is actually something. I think this is a pattern. And so I started running around looking for more stuff like that, just totally abandoning the points. And I pulled into a pocket, and there were some big boulders up on the left, and there was a dock, but then between the two, you know, between that dock and between the next dock, there was that big boulder, and there was some room to get up on the bank and parallel it. And I was like, man, that looks so good. And I rolled over in the inside of that dock, and I kind of scanned it with the active target, and I'm panning to the left, and I see a mark, and I'm like, okay. And I grab my jerkbait, and I'm about to line up the cast, and I scan a little more to the left. I'm like, holy cow, there's 6 of them sitting there right off the edge of that rock. And so I line up those 6, and I fire out across those 6 fish, and I jerk that jerkbait down and get it into that school of fish, and I twitch it, and it locks up, and it starts digging. And I was like, okay, this is a different caliber of fish. I have not hooked a fish that's fought this hard this whole week. You know, there's striped bass in Smith Lake, and so I was like, man, I hope this isn't a striper. But the way it was set up with those other fish, it just did not seem like a striper to me. And so I fought it really, really carefully on that jerkbait, got it all the way to the boat, got it up, put the net under, slid her in the net. It was a 4.26 pound spot, and that filled my limit on the second day. So that was an amazing feeling, knowing that putting that fish in the boat, I was guaranteed fishing the top 50. I was guaranteed a $10,000 check. Just everything about that fish was a huge momentum, you know, boost for the rest of the day, and just really made my mind, you know, at ease for the rest of the day. Well, I ended up bouncing around, hitting some more spots. You know, I culled up with like a 2 1/4, got rid of that one that just barely touched 15, and then I bounced around, culled up it one more time. And then right at the end of the day, I rolled into an area, and I found like a 4-pound largemouth up shallow. Couldn't get it to bite, but it seemed like it was kind of getting ready to spawn in this little area. So I was like, well, should I run largemouth the rest of the day? I had like an hour left. Should I run largemouth the rest of the day, or should I go back to spots? Well, I went back to spots, and I'm sure glad I did. I pulled up on this little point, kind of rocky point area that the rocks really tapered out pretty fast into deeper water. I think I was sitting over about 70 feet of water, and I pan, and I see a couple, and I cast to them, and they follow it all the way to the boat and don't bite it. And I see another one and cast to it, follows it all the way to the boat, doesn't bite it. And then I was like, man, maybe these fish went behind the boat and they're set up back there again. So I panned behind the boat with the active target, and I see a big mark right off the back end of the boat, like 60 feet away. So I turn around and I fire that jerkbait out behind the boat, and I'm jerking it down, kind of watching the screen, and I see that mark just shoot. And I'm like, oh gosh, he's going for the bait. And I slow down, and I jerk it one more time, and it just loads up. It was another 4-pound spotted bass. Got that one in the net. That fish put me up to like almost 15 pounds. I had 14 pounds, 12 ounces. That weight rocketed me all the way up to 14th place, tied for 13th place. So going into the third day, I thought, my gosh, I figured these fish out. I got some big ones. I got like 9 keeper bites. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to have a blast. I'm going to run around and run more new water. I'm going to really dial this in, and I'm going to have a great day 3. So going out day 3, I was more confident than I had been the whole rest of the tournament. So it was really weird. You know, I go out there, I'm thinking, no, this is going to be good. I'm going to figure them out. I roll back to that same spot on day 3 where I ended the day with the 4-pounder the day before. And I start scanning with the active target, and I see some fish, and I'm casting to them, and they just kind of follow, don't really go for it. And then finally I scan the edge of the rocks, and I see a couple, and I cast down the edge, and boom, I catch like a 2-pounder. And I was like, yeah, this is good. This is going to happen. Well, lo and behold, I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was that the water, I think I know what happened. I think the water temperature rose so fast and these fish were so full of eggs and so ready to spawn that within one day they kind of went into a funky pre-spawn. They're ready to push to the bank, and I was still trying to get them to eat. And I probably had about 100 and 150 fish follow my jerkbait and my little swim bait to the boat, all the way to the trolling motor, and then dip off. You can watch it on your active target. It's cool, but it's also some of the most frustrating stuff in the sport that I've experienced. But anyhow, day 3 did not materialize like I wanted it to. I ended up weighing in that one bass. I caught a handful of short fish that were just under, and you know, I had some others hooked up that came off, but there's nothing you can do about that. And weighed in that one bass for 2 pounds 1 ounce on day 3. It's one of the worst day 3s, or I guess just the worst days I've had in a long time tournament fishing. It's just amazing how you can go from such a high on day 2 to such a low on day 3. But hey, it's humbling. That's just part of the sport. You got to take what you're given. You know, cherish those great days, but also don't dwell on those bad days, and just kind of got to move forward. I've got Dale Hollow for the Toyota Series coming up at the end of this month. Going to get down there and practice a few days before that tournament. And then the next Pro Circuit event is on Lake Murray in South Carolina. I'm really excited for that. That's another blueback herring lake. I've actually spent a fair amount of time on Lake Murray in the past for like high school tournaments and college tournaments, and I've done decent there. Never like great, but I've done decent there. I know the lake fairly well, and I sort of know how those fish like to set up. Excited to get there. But anyway, I just wanted to share with you guys quickly the equipment that I used. I know I was talking about it a lot, but I didn't show you guys. The jerkbait that I used a lot was that Nishine Erie 115 that I showed you. And then the Megabass, this is a, what is this? The Vision 110 Plus One. This has the deeper, longer bill on it. Gets down there a little quicker. I don't know what color this is. This is one that I got actually from my buddy Josh Douglas. Shout out to Josh Douglas for giving me a couple jerkbaits after that second day for the upcoming day. I was getting low on that jerkbait, and so he gave me a couple of those, which is super cool. The one thing I was doing differently, I think a lot of guys were probably, I don't know what line they were throwing it on. I'm not going to sit here and, you know, act like I know, but I was throwing mine on 10-pound fluorocarbon. I like to throw the jerkbait in that clear water on a little bit thinner line. I feel like I get a better action out of my bait, as well as a longer cast, as well as just a little bit more depth out of my jerkbait. So 10-pound fluorocarbon, throwing that on a 7'1". This is a medium light Phenix K2. This is a super, super nice jerkbait rod. It is not like in the lower price range, but if you're looking for a super high quality, nice jerkbait rod, I really recommend it. It is a 7'1". So if you're not into that little bit longer length, then this isn't for you, but I personally don't mind that 7'1" length. Actually, I like it. So if you're looking for another, you know, a new jerkbait rod, something, if it's your favorite technique and you're looking for a really, really high-end rod to throw jerkbait on, check out this Phenix K2 7'1" medium light. And I was throwing that guy with a 70 size Shimano Curado, like I said, 10-pound fluorocarbon line. This is 7:2-to-1 gear ratio reel, and that was my jerkbait setup for the week. I had 2 of those on the deck with a couple different jerkbaits, that Nishine and that Vision 110 Plus One. You know, that color, I don't remember what it's called, but this is another color I caught one of my 4-pounders on. That's like a sexy French pearl, I think, or something like that. Caught a good one on that. And then as far as the swim bait goes, I was throwing the, this is a Swing Impact Fat Keitech 3.3 inch. This is Rainbow Shad. This is one of my favorite colors. I was also throwing Pro Blue Red Pearl. That's another really, really good color. And then I was throwing it, like I said, on that 2/7 ounce Nishine Smelthead. This jig head has a really, really nice long keeper, a lot of little ridges, so it holds onto that Keitech really, really well, even without a bunch of glue or anything. And this one here is the one with the little bit smaller hook in it. I believe that is the owner hook in that head, and it's a perfect size for that little 3.3 Keitech. This is actually the same jig head I was throwing up on Sturgeon Bay last year for the title championship, when I was catching those really, really nice smallmouth around the bridges and stuff up there. So check that jig head out for your Keitechs. Works really, really well. And I was throwing that on a 7'2". This is a medium action M1, Phenix M1, and I had that paired up with a Shimano Stratic 10-pound braid to a 7-pound leader. This is a lot lighter than, you know, what I was throwing on the jerkbait, but I like that thinner line. Gives a little bit less of a profile when it's coming through the water. It just makes everything a little bit more natural, especially when those fish are tracking the bait for so long. The more natural you can get, the better. So that Keitech setup was on 6 or 7 pound leader, 10 pound braid on a 7'2" medium action. And that was pretty much what I lived and died by. Clearly on the third day I died by it. Oh, I forgot to tell you guys. So I dropped down to 41st place to end the tournament. So not bad at all. Still cut a really nice check. And we got good points going into the rest of the season. I think right now, Angler of the Year standings, I'm sitting 20th in the points. So still well within striking distance of that Angler of the Year title. But I also, you know, am in striking distance to make that championship. And then at the end of the year, the cool part here, at the end of this season, if I average my last year, which 6th place in the points, this year we'll see, if I average in the top 10 out of everybody, I qualify to fish the Major League Fishing Bass Pro Tour. So that would be MLF, you know, the Every Fish Counts format. And that is just surreal to think that I'm on my way to qualify for that. So that's the goal. I'm really, you know, really putting myself in a good position to qualify for that. So that's kind of the goal. I just wanted to share with you guys everything that I did at Smith, sort of the breakdown of the week and sort of my thought process and how I caught these fish. Because, I mean, this was a totally different style of fishing than really I had ever done before. I didn't have active target until about a week and a half before this tournament. And so I spent some days out on Guntersville learning it, and being able to utilize it on a fishery like Smith really showed me how these blueback herring spotted bass orient themselves. And the best way I could put it is completely random. They're everywhere. They're suspended out over hundreds of feet of water. They're up on the bank chasing them. They're everywhere in between. So just keep an open mind if you go out to Smith Lake, you know, target points. Points are high percentage areas. Even if you're not getting bit, the fish are there. Just kind of work at different angles, try different baits, and try that jerkbait, try that little swim bait out, and keep in mind light line. I know you're gonna have to fight the fish a little bit more carefully, but keep in mind that light line. So anyway, guys, hope you have a great one. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel. I've been posting more, uploading more, trying to do more informative videos for you guys, as well as some fish catch videos in between. And I hope you're enjoying. Like I said, please subscribe to the channel if you aren't already. Like this video, and why don't you just share it with one of your friends or 5 of your friends? Just say, hey, check out this channel, this guy Jacob Wall. The more you guys do that, the more my name gets out there, the more this channel and my information gets out there, and it just helps me expand. I'd love to. Anyway, guys, my camera just cut off, ran out of battery, so I just want to say signing out. Hope you have a good one. Enjoy the rest of your day.